dead mic on purpose. Tim Penso, director at Ayers and Cicely Newsom, really excited to be here and be your host of this panel for these fine gentlemen. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more ladies up here at the next event. Who's looking forward to that? First of all, I just want to say, I am a better man because Jordan Hunt is in this company. You guys made a massive impact in my life, man. You know, this ain't. We will be talking about money, but this ain't just all about money. You know, there's plenty of people in this room that the bank accounts are full, but the relationship account is infinite, and that's just something that you can't find when you walk into TD or Bank of America, right? So let's get into it. I got my clicker here. The slide we gotta change the slide. I don't want everybody just staring at me all day here. Oh, there we go. All right, let's start with, you know, earlier we touched on our sales panel, right? The how-tos of doing what we do. But I remember when I had my first conversation with Ayers Newsom years ago, and I came from a practice company, and the first conversation I was just like, hey man, unfortunately I learned this in my last company. I said, hey man, I've already made some money selling insurance. I'm not looking to just keep selling insurance for the rest of my life. I love it, but I'm just not looking to be doing that 10, 15, 25 years down the road. And if you could relate to that, you're going to want to take some notes here. We're going to have an acronym if you just want to write this down right away. I've learned that note takers are money makers, right? And the acronym's going to be ROAD, R-O-A-D. All right, and these gentlemen are going to be breaking that down. But the thing that I learned at the last company was, it was simple. It was, hey, if you want to make a great living, you could sell some insurance. But if you want to make a fortune, you could show people how to do that, right? And that's what these gentlemen have done. So let's get into it. So first of all, we have let's just back this slide up. Which one we got here? There we go. Ayers, who do you see? Do you see this fine gentleman right there? Woo! Perfect. Let's start with you, Mr. Federico. I remember when I first heard you speak. What was that? We were in Memphis. There was like a duck walk and some stuff, and you did it crazy. Who remembers that? Who remembers that over you? Federico? Yep.
Remember when the hotel collapsed and we had to shift the whole convention like 3 blocks away?
Nah, I don't even hear about that.
Yeah.
Oh yes. We had to call some audibles, man. That's what's great about leadership.
And I still have a migraine from that one.
Oh
so.
yeah. That's what's great about building, right? Sometimes there's fires you don't even know about them, right? People just handle them. But let's start with this. I know you have an interesting background. Believe it or not, I believe you won a Grammy before. Is that true?
That's accurate. Yeah.
Let's give it up for a Grammy. We got a Grammy award winner now. I'm going to stack this question. Why did you start building, and what is one thing in your life that is better because you built an agency?
Yeah, well, my name is Ryan Federico. I'm director Eric and Julie Prabula in the Griffith A. Martin Master Agency. And man, so happy to be a part of this conference, and so happy with all of the leadership and guidance that I've been given from this agency has helped me out tremendously. What I can tell you is, before I came to Symmetry, I was in home improvement sales. I was building sales teams for other people's legacies, basically. I was flying all around the Western United States, training salespeople and hiring salespeople and firing salespeople and all that fun stuff. And I was making a ton of money, but behind the scenes, I like to say my Instagram life looked tight. Right? Because I had the things, I had the pictures, everything was beautiful, but behind the scenes, I was headed for divorce, I was an absentee father, all my kids' first stuff, first words, first books, first food, first whatever. If I saw it at all, most likely it was on FaceTime. And even when I was at home, I wasn't at home, right? Like I was disconnected, I was, on my cell phone, I was answering emails, I was taking calls, and I remember very distinctly Brian Delaney, when I told him that story when I first came to Symmetry, he said, that sounds like very expensive money. And that's what it was. I was making $300,000 a year, but I would have been happy making, $50,000 and keeping my marriage intact. And so when I came to Symmetry, I saw this opportunity, and it was like, well, I'm already doing this for somebody else. I'm already hiring salespeople and building sales teams and training them and developing them, and all of the things that made it so difficult for me to do that were already figured out at Symmetry. Like, I didn't have to run all the sales meetings, I didn't have to do all the sales training, I didn't have to find the clients. A lot of the stuff that made my job difficult was already figured out here. And so I came into the system and I started building a team, and the reality is that in the first year, I mean, the first 3 months, my life dramatically changed from building a team. Because I came in building. I had my first recruit before I had my license, right? I came here to build. That's why I came here, right? And some of you might not ever want to build, and that's fine. But I came here to build a team. I came here to build a legacy and to grow a passive income that would allow me to be present for my family. And I got that immediately, like right out of the gate. I was picking up my kids from school, I was dropping my kids off to school, I was at dinner almost every night, a couple nights a week I was out producing, right? And I was at home back then when we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow and fax applications and stuff like that. And people were like, what's a fax machine? So immediately that impact was felt. And fast forward to this year, coaching my kids' baseball team, you know what I mean? Like taking trips all around the world on insurance carriers' dimes, taking my kids on those trips, right? Symmetry has given me so much. Like, I owe this company everything in my life. And that came from building a team, right? Could I have done that if I was producing? Maybe. But I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot more people do it building than I have do it producing. So.
I love that, man. Let's give him a round of applause. I love it. Tell him, man. What has building done for your life, man? Man, I remember when I first really had my first run-in with you at the airport, and I was just like, I don't like this dude. Who knew we became besties, right? And I think I was just jealous because he was like a teacher, and I always had a problem with teachers when I was younger. and he helped me walk out some things. But tell me, why'd you build an agency? I mean, you used to be a former teacher. You probably, I'm not knocking you here, but you probably before here, what was your highest year in income as a teacher? Who are underpaid, to be clear?
37.
37,000 in a year?
In a year, not a month.
Wow. So when you came here, you started building right away. Why was that?
Yeah, Ian Graham directed Symmetry by way of Sterling Gatling, Joel Steen, Trey Larson, Cloutier, Jimmy Spieldenner, Brian Delaney, Edward Pritchett. And when I saw you in the airport, I identified you as the troublemaker in my class, and I didn't like you either. That's straight up. I'm not just being funny. Like this guy, we've never talked about this. We are besties now. Man, so who's been camping before? Yeah? Okay. Some people like I'm talking camping where you got the tent that you got to put up regardless of the weather, and then you're on the ground and there's a thin sleeping bag that you're on in between you and the ground. Now I know some of us in the room like that, right? But who would rather be at a 5-star resort? And so that was I was very lower middle class, Tim, and that was our vacations as a family growing up. Northern Michigan, we go camping. That sounds like fun. And our big trip would be out west. We went on like a 2-month vacation in our Dodge Caravan that smelled like junk because we're living out of it to go see America. And when I saw this opportunity, Tim, I wanted to do it differently. And Brian Delaney asked me, why are you building so fast? I said, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? And how much life is different now, guys, to be able to travel the world, like Ryan said, to all 5-star resorts that most people just dream about going, and certainly a school teacher wasn't ever going to be able to get to go to. And more importantly than that is money can give you options and choices in life. Right? You feel me on that? Money gives you options and choices in life that are otherwise unavailable. And to be able to choose when you and your wife are going through infertility for X amount of years, to choose to drop $16,000 on a round of IVF and do that 3 times to produce who are now Owen Michael Graham and Kalen Thomas Graham. That's right.
Gino.
Thanks, buddy.
Gino, let's tell him. I mean, we were having a conversation, was that yesterday or the day before, right? And this guy, you know, not even 30 yet. 3 properties. When he started here, I heard he was a model. Is that? So before we even get into that, is that true? And if that's true, what were you getting paid before you were here?
Man, I didn't get paid to model. I've done that for fun. So.
Oh, okay. Listen. I'm sure people would pay big money, Gina Locklear, big money for that. So you were doing that before you started here, and then you came in here, and I remember you from that same bus ride that Jordan talked about yesterday, and right away, I still reach out to you for personal production advice, and I watched you over the last several years go from that monster producer to that monster builder. So I would love for you to tell them just genuinely what's different in your life and what have you achieved from being able to build an agency.
Yeah, absolutely. Gino Locklear, direct to the one and only Jordan Hunt. Yeah. But in the Delaney Pritchett hierarchy. But you know, for me, when I came here, Tim, and I didn't. I'd done the building when I first came in because that was the cool thing to do. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'll never forget. I was telling this story last night. You know, producing, it kind of came easy to me, but whenever I got called into Jordan's office by Brian, he's like, I need you to sit down. I'm like, oh. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, am I in trouble? Right, and he was like, listen man, you're a good producer. You're a great producer, but I need you to be a great leader. And that scared the shit out of me, right? Because if anybody knew me prior to that moment, I was the guy that tried to fit in with everybody, right? That would wear a mask, that would be the guy that was a true follower, never truly knew how to lead himself. And so I left out of that meeting, went into my office, closed the door, turned the lights off, and started crying. I was like, I can't do this. People don't respect me. People ain't gonna follow me. I can't lead myself. How am I gonna lead others? You know. And so before that, you know, I would hire people. I would do this and I would do that. And I truly believe I hit agency owners solely off of talent. But what we know, discipline eats talent every day of the week, right? Work ethic eats it. But in that moment, I made a decision to be a builder. Right? I was like, I don't have to let my past determine my future. Right? So it took me getting a coach like Drew McClure. Give it up for Drew. Oh my goodness. Right? But yeah, it took me getting a coach. It took me, you know, being in a room with Brian Delaney. I'll never forget. We was on a cruise. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. We're leaving from the casino, right?
Oh boy.
Easy. But we're leaving the casino and we're sitting down and Brian's just pouring into me, man. He's just casting that level of belief. And he said, you know, Gino, I see you one day speaking in front of a room of 4,000 people. And like to me, I was like, man, like having somebody like that believe in you. So I don't know if there's somebody in this room tonight that don't believe in yourself, that don't believe you're capable of being a leader. I'm proof, right? The thing that I love about being a builder and a leader within this organization is that I can actually now go into the bathroom, go into my bedroom, look in the mirror and be like, I can count on you. I can count on you, right? So that's what building doesn't mean. Everything else is just a byproduct.
I just want to give some more context there. So the year before last year, he did 976, just shy of $1 million. 2022, correct? Yeah. 2022. 2023, in his first 6 months, they did over $1 million. He got married and built a house and broke a personal production record. That's time and money. Same thing for you, buddy. Tell him, man. I mean, and what I love about all different backgrounds, all same thing to offer though. Plug and play system, right? I mean, you're different story. Full-time dad, full-time husband, former basketball coach. I mean, you came in here, and what I've always loved about you, Rob, and I didn't get to find out about it until the other night when we were on the phone, and we were talking, I was like, there it is. There it is. You know, all I've ever heard about you, man, is that you're a phenomenal coach, developer of people. And I've unfortunately have not gotten the experience until the other night when we got into it. I was like, oh man, I can't wait for this builders panel. But we're gonna get back to that. So put a pin in that. But tell them, why did you start building an agency?
Thanks, Tim. So my name's Rob Hurley. I'm director of Brian Delaney, and I'm really fired up about that.
Hell yeah.
And like Tim said, I'm a former college basketball coach, and I was the end of a rare breed as a college athlete because I played two sports. I was the quarterback of the football team, and then I was the point guard of the basketball team as well. And so I said this to somebody the other day. I'm just not the assistant type. I'm the executive type, right? Okay, and I love teams, like I love teams. And when I came here, I was here for 3 or 4 months. Ian was already building like crazy, and I was looking for other jobs. And I remember I interviewed with Willis Towers Watson, which Edward's like the only person here who knows who they are. But I had interviewed with them, and in the interview, it was like a month before I had gone to Asheville for the first time. And I remember the interviewee asking me, like, what's going on, what are you looking for? And I had not been plugged into the system at all. I had been like a Rambo in those early days. And I said to her, I go, I belong on a team. I belong on a team, and I'm not, and I can't function unless I'm with people. Does that, anybody else ever, like, you feel like that at all? And I didn't get the job. So, so I ended up going I go to Asheville for the first time, and we used to do like these key leader retreats. I don't remember what those were called back then, but you know, Matt and Brad again, and it was like, there is an opportunity for me to be on a team, and it was right in front of me, and I didn't know it. And one of the things that we haven't said yet, that I think the leaders of the company know, or I heard Jordan say last night, he was just like, the opportunity is great, but it's great because of how hard it actually is. It's better than we talk about, but it's also harder than it was. And I want you to know that also, that the people in this company are better than you think. Yeah. Like, we have unbelievable people here. Unbelievable people. And so for me, I just saw this as an opportunity where I could build a team. Because I need a team, I love teams. I thought like I could build a team here, and I could do it with people like this. And for me, that was like, I don't care what we're selling, I don't care what we're doing, like wherever they're going, I want to be a part of that.
Love that, man. I love this. We're going to get into some mechanics. We're going to switch gears here. So the first acronym there was that ARM. Let's talk about that. That's recruiting. Right? You know, people say, oh, you guys are always recruiting. Yeah, so was the military. Right? You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right? And one thing that this ultimately goes back to, people think you just build a company. The first thing you do is you build people, then you build the company. Right? The other one comes first, not the other. So Ryan, I've watched you. I mean, you were top three base shop recruiters last year. In the company, the whole entire company. People out there that they want to start building, but they just don't know how yet. They're like, hey, listen, that's attractive. I'd like to be up there. I'd like to be doing all these things and having that lifestyle. But what's an easy way to get started? Because you mentioned earlier, you're like, hey, when I was in licensing, I think you said this. Hey, when I was in licensing, I already had somebody in licensing. What was the conversation that somebody had with you that made that happen?
Yeah. Well, that was actually pretty easy because anybody here ever worked in sales before? Okay, so you know salespeople, right? And salespeople are always looking for the next best thing, right? So it's like that was a really easy conversation. Just be like, hey, I think I found the next best thing. Are you interested? Yes. You know, it's a real simple conversation most of the time with people who have a background in sales. I happened to hire and fire and train and develop salespeople for many years before I came here, and so I had a short list of people. Some of you have the same short list of people.
Interesting. Hold on. So how much did that cost you to come up with that list?
$0.
Okay.
I actually thought about this as we were coming up here, because we always get into this I want to get started recruiting. Should I do cold market or should I do warm market? And the answer to that question is yes. You should do that, is basically what it is. And so I thought about the people up here, and I was like, you were cold market, right? You came in off a job ad.
Yep.
I was warm market. Warm market to Sterling. Warm market, right? So now you have a bunch of people, and if we polled this audience here, we're not going to do it right now, you'd probably find a mix of both, so that means that both work, right? And so the one thing that I think holds us back from warm market recruiting, because this is all it's the same as producing. If you went on, you're like, I want to write $5,000 this week, but I got 3 B5 leads, it's probably not going to work very well for you. And for those of you who are new that doesn't make sense to, just stick around for a little while. I promise you, it'll be funny at some point in time to you. But right now, it's like, okay, well, I want to build a team, but I only am talking to 2 or 3 people a week. That's not going to work. So you need to have people in the top of your funnel. You need to be having conversations with the right type of people every single week. That's why Casey talks about filling both boxes, the production box and the recruiting box. That means you need to have specific recruiting time in your calendar, just like you have specific producing time in your calendar. You have blocks for dials, and you have blocks for running appointments, and you have blocks for following up with carriers and getting business issued. Those same blocks for calling back resumes and touching base with people in licensing and all of the things that you need to do to get people on your team. It's the same intentionality that you have for production that you need to have for building. And so for me, when I started off, and it was warm market or cold market, I think sometimes we see the success of people in Symmetry Financial Group. We've got some incredibly successful people here. We've got producers that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, blowing the doors off of our industry, right, that nobody else in our industry is touching right now. We've got builders that are growing massive agencies, right? But we forget sometimes that $1,000 can change the world for somebody. How many families, how many marriages would be saved with $1,000 a month extra, right? How many more vacations would a family be able to take with one of their kids and create memories with an extra $1,500 a month, right? How many houses would be saved? How much less stress, how many lives would be elongated because they had less stress in it, right? Think about that for a minute, because it's not super difficult to make $1,000 or $1,500 a month with us. But sometimes we're presenting this opportunity to people, and we're just like, you can make $200,000 in your first year. It's maybe they only need to make $1,000 and it would change everything for them. That's your warm market. You all know somebody in your life whose life would be dramatically changed with $1,000. And those are people that we have a serious opportunity for, that's not super difficult for them to do in their spare time, right, as a side hustle. And so it's start sharing the opportunity with them. Start asking them, hey, have you ever thought about doing something like this on the side? So warm market, super easy. Now let's say you want to start off cold market, which you should probably do both. But I started off recruiting cold market, or I got my warm market people in, and then I went cold market. I think the easiest way is Craigslist, personally.
Okay, so you're throwing a lot of heat out here, and I just want to underscore a couple of things here. So the first thing, it's just funny, right? And it goes back to the 4 keys. You heard the resources, you heard the activity, you heard the system, and you heard the schedule.
Yep.
Right. So that's the first thing. Make a list. Make a list. Now, when you were reaching out to those people, were you just oh, hey, this is this really great thing. Come join me. You want to join my club? Or were you a little bit more sophisticated and strategic with it?
No, I was actually pretty much the first way, to be quite honest, right? We want to be real. It was just man, I think I found this awesome thing, and you should meet this guy. His name's Eric Prabula. He's showing me all this stuff. You should talk to Griff Martin. We had leaders in our organization that were doing corporate overviews every week.
Well, and what's funny about that is I've heard Ayers, Cicely, and Delaney say this over the years, is you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
It's about saying the same thing to enough people, is what it's about.
Love that.
I started doing that warm market. I brought a bunch of warm market people in, and then I started doing cold market, and I've recruited a lot of my organization cold market. And like I said, if we're looking for the easiest place to get started for the sake of time, I'm just going to say Craigslist. You can put an ad up for $35. You'll probably get 50 or 60 people to respond to it. call through those resumes. You're gonna find a couple good people out of those. Get them on the phone with your mentor. Please, for the love of God, get them on the phone with your mentor, right? Don't be the expert.
Why is that?
I made that mistake where it's like, I came from, I'm the expert, right? I'm hiring and training the salespeople. So I've built this big company. And the reality is, the more that you can just be a partner with that person and make somebody else the expert, it takes all the expectations off of your shoulders. So all of you who are like, I gotta figure this thing out before I start building, no, you don't. Put them with the people that have already figured it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Get them on the phone with your upline and like your upline knows that you don't know what you're doing.
I want to hit
Right. They know that you don't know, right? So they're going to help you out.
I want to highlight that because that's something that Ayers did really well. I watched him do that with me when I came in. One of the first conversations I had with him was, you've publicly spoken about this, but I struggled because I was like, hey man, what's your biggest year you had in income? And at that time it was like 180, 200. And I came from a company, and just to be clear, we said cold market, he found me, but I was brought into this industry, warm market. Right? My roommate made me go to a group interview, which we're gonna get back to here in just a second. But Ayers was really clear. He's like, hey man, if you're used to following a guy that was making 800 grand a year, you need to talk to Brian and Edward. I'll just introduce you to them. Do you know how much more respect I had for him? Where a lot of the times we want to be the guy or the lady that's the confident one, but at the end of the day, what are you more attracted to? The cocky egomaniac or the person that has humility?
Thank you.
Let's just remember that the next time you want to be the one that's feeling significant, right?
Yeah.
Right? So before we move on to you, I just want to hit one more thing with you. You said you can call these Craigslist people yourself. But talk to me about the power, because I've been hearing this little thing that you got going on in the company that I've been personally using, people on my team are using, that is collapsing some time frames. Let's talk real quick about what is the importance of doing group interviews versus doing one-on-one, and then we're gonna jump over to onboarding here right after that. But yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, and look, like we've got a lot to cover here, and I want to make sure that I sum this up as quick as possible for everybody. I spent a lot of time in a tug of war between building and producing. And y'all who are building and producing understand what that's like, right? I'm taking so much time to produce that I can't build. I'm taking so much time to build that I can't produce. And it's this tug of war back and forth. We call it the dog fight, right, of building an agency. Well, it's like, well, if I had 25 people booked for initial interviews on my calendar, I knew that like not all of them were gonna show up. I was gonna call some of them and they were still gonna be asleep and forgot that they had an interview booked with me, right? I was gonna call some and they were gonna be a bad fit. So rather than put 25 on my calendar over 15 minutes each, I just put all 25 in 1 hour. The same people that were gonna show up, right? Maybe a couple of them don't. And I end up hiring the same 3 or 4 people anyway, but now it's only an hour out of my calendar rather than 5 hours that I can't spend producing or playing with my kids or taking my wife out to dinner or doing all of the other amazing stuff that this industry and this company can offer us. And so I believe in doing as much as you can in groups, group training, group mentoring, office hours, stuff like that, and then empowering the people in the groups to start training each other, which is really cool.
Get up for Ryan. Okay, so now, you got a guy. You got a guy. You talk to somebody, you got a gal, you're fired up about them, you're in your final interview. I mean, I've learned almost, I think, everything about cold market recruiting from you and collaborating with. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm asking you to send me a spreadsheet or look at some data, things like that. And I've watched you just be incredible with that over the years. And I remember collaborating with you a couple years ago and just interviews, man, and just expectations and clear communication. And one thing that a lot of people ask me, and I've learned from you and with you, is you create an environment and an experience where you're not looking for the people that you hired, where you set up expectations where they're wondering where you are. You're not wondering where that person went. And it's like, oh, whatever that one person that was on the call, like they're looking for you. How do you set that up so that you're not constantly thinking about people?
Yeah, really good question. Super important. Our entire relationship, mentor to mentee, guys, is set up from the very beginning. So we have to set that right expectation, that right foundation on how they're going to be treated by us, as well as how they should be treating us, both ways. And from the day you were born, who made the decisions? Like who decided what you're gonna do? Was it your parents or you? Parents. When you went to school, who directed you? Was it you got to make whatever choices you want, or your teachers made those choices? When you went and got a JOB, which stands for just over broke, was it your boss or you who got to make the decisions? People have been used to being led. The vast majority of people have a W mentality. They've been used to being led at the point at which you're discussing a possible match for them to work with you. Some people come from an entrepreneur background and already have that, and you have to be intuitive enough to realize that I'm going to coach that person a bit differently than someone who's been led their entire life. But because they've been led their entire life, we're not going to micromanage or boss them. They're trying to get away from that probably, yes? What they do need, though, are very clear expectations, because if the expectations are unclear, we know from a sales standpoint, confused minds, guess what? Confused agents don't work and don't sell. All right answers. And so we have to make sure that we are leading them, and if our agents are not getting the results that they said they want based on the goals that we discussed, and if we didn't set, I want to be clear with you guys, if we didn't set the expectations up front as far as what it's going to take to win here, because it's not easy, if we didn't do our job as a mentor to set the clear expectations, in my opinion, it's our fault that they're not winning. If we do set the clear expectations and we have a level of accountability, we ask for their accountability and their commitment to that accountability, and in return, we're going to be accountable to do what we say we're going to do. Now if they don't win, whose fault is it? Their fault. So if people don't win, would you rather it be your fault they're not winning so they can go vlog and blog about you, or for them to know that it's actually their fault they're not winning? And the expectation setting in that, for me personally, you do what you need to do as far as what you feel like is going to help your people win and achieve the goals that they want to achieve. For me, I discuss massive action and what that's going to look like. I discuss constant correction and what that's going to look like. And I discuss association and what that means. And I'm really clear about it. And I get a verbal commitment from them in our final interview before I even send an onboarding application to them. Are you good with those? Do you have any questions about those? And could you give me if they're good with them, can you give me, Tim, your verbal commitment that you're down for those things? Yeah, absolutely. And I let them know, this is what successful people do here. Success leaves clues. This is what successful people do. To be successful, this is going to be what it requires. And so they know what it's going to require to become successful here. And I tell them, hey, I want to be held accountable too. If I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, you need to let me know about that. I'm human. Give me some grace. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going to be perfect through this. But can we have this relationship, Julie, of accountability? And when they give you their word that they're going to follow through on massive action, constant correction, and association, we need to, as a mentor, now it's our job. We made it clear what it is to do and that we're going to be that guide by their side. But then it's our responsibility to have conversations early and often. If we notice, early and often, I mean week 1, we discussed with them on the final interview, this Zoom call, this team training is very important. 300 or more dials, or whatever your standard is very important. And when they don't follow through with that, it's our job to have that fierce or crucial conversation with them. That's where we come in as a mentor. Hey, Tim, do you remember back when we did the final interview what those expectations were? Talk to me. And then we can have that clear guidance, and we can guide them to do what they already said that they would do. And it's a foundation for your entire relationship moving forward.
And yes, absolutely, round of applause. We can't forget that. I mean, Jordan, I think somebody said this the other day. If you showed up at this company, it's most likely because something went terribly wrong, right? So, and I look back to that time in my life with Airs in Sicily, and I want you to think about that time when you were there. Did you want to be led and directed during that time, truthfully? No. I did. Did you? Did you, gentlemen? The ones that are up here do. And we cannot forget that the right people want to follow the right people. This is a game of follow the leader, all the way up to the top. So great stuff. So now they're onboarded, right? You gave them the clear expectations. You told them where the training's at and all the fun stuff is happening. And now let's just jump right over to Mr. Locklear. I remember last year, I just remember watching the national call and just seeing the SNA slide Locklear. Well, I don't know, because I know there's a lot of Locklears over in Lumberton too, but I knew it was you. I knew it was you, and because Jordan was constantly communicating that to Ian and I, and just hearing about it. And you had a lot of SNAs, and that was the same year you went from 976 in 22 to the over $1 million the following year, and almost doubled, right? So talk about what kind of expectations, what was the conversation like in that interview to get people writing apps right out the gate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's in addition to what Ian's talking about, right? Because you have to have expectations, you have to have standards. What I do know is, in order to have great success, you have to have great commitments, right? And without those commitments, you're just going to let any and everything fall by the wayside, and you're going to live by your excuses and your emotions. However, what we know as builders and people that have, got to a certain place within this organization is we know exactly what it takes to win. We know that, right? And raise your hand again for our new agents. Who we got? All right, keep your hand raised if you're like within your first 30 days. Okay, so what if we were able to have a conversation where it was like, hey, in these next 30 to 45 days, not only will you be able to hit SNA, not only will you hit Slingshot, not only will you become team leader, but we have full confidence that if you follow our simple, duplicatable strategy, that in 30 to 45 days, that will happen. I take it you don't want to. Do you want that? Yeah. Okay. Man, I thought I was in the wrong room for a second. Jesus. But no, so what we know is we know when we hire brand new agents, right, especially within one of our systems that we have, we're able to show our agents that, hey, this is what our top new agents look like. Who wants to be separated from a new agent to a top new agent? Wrong room again. Let me hear it. Yeah. All right, there we go. Y'all's getting what I'm laying down. All right, so what we know is the most consistent agents that we have, when they come in the door, they're already having clients lined up waiting for them, right? So like whenever we're having that expectation call, that standards call, those commitment calls, it's like, hey, listen, while you're going through this learning curve, while you're going through your licensing, I need you to go ahead and start letting people know what you're going to be doing, right? Because what we do matters. Because if y'all didn't think it matters, none of y'all would have got y'all's license to do what we do, right? So let's go ahead and start letting those people know, whether it's our family, whether it's social media, whether it's people in our community. We're going to go ahead and start letting them know what we do here, right? And by the time you get licensed, what do you have? You have people, 8, 9, 10 people who's already ready for you to write an insurance policy on them. Because when you become a brand new agent here, what happens? You have to go through a learning curve. Do you think it would be easier to go through that learning curve with money in the bank or worrying about paying your light bill? Absolutely. You're able to operate out of abundance instead of desperation, right? And so we know that gets you to SNA. That gets you getting your first promotion. What we also know is that if you want to go fast in life, go by yourself. But eventually what's going to happen? You're going to hit a brick wall one day. You're going to hit an obstacle that is bigger than yourself. But if you want to go far in life, especially in this industry, and especially within Symmetry Financial, you need to go with who? Others, right? Because not only will you get to your destination quicker, not only will you become a bigger and badder individual, but you're going to have a hell of a fun time doing it, right? Yeah.
That's good. Now just to clarify a couple things there, right? So we the acronym, right? We have R for what? Recruiting, right? And then we have our buddy right here for O. What do we have? Yep. And then we had Gina that was just covering activating, right? And what I love about the things that you're saying is, a mentor of mine told me one time, he said, don't let your first appointment of the day be the first appointment of the day. And really what you're saying is, don't let your first e-app, who here stumbled or lost a sale because they were navigating an e-app and didn't know what they were doing? Right? So what he's doing, he's setting up his people to he's cutting the weeds down with them. Right? Their first e-app with a client is not their first e-app with a client. That's genius. Let's give it up for Gina. Nice job. Back to what I was saying earlier about the things that I heard about Rob. I said that we're going to put a pin in it and come back to it. you know, Gino, you were just touching on, no, I'm sorry, Ian, you were touching on having a hard conversation with people. And I think that a lot of people can shy away from that. Who here has ever needed to say something to somebody? Maybe they really cared about them, or you know, you ever heard the expression? Maybe somebody's got broccoli in their teeth, or they got bad breath, and you want to tell them or something, right? And I've learned about you, Rob, that you have a phenomenal reputation of just having good quality, hard conversations with people out of love. And I want to, for all the people in here, because there's one thing that's just inevitable. If you're in leadership, you ain't going to be in leadership if you're having easy conversations. I'll just tell you that right now, right? So can you talk to the people a little bit about what are some tools that they could walk out of here with so that they could jump into those and start developing their people and what it's like and why you do it on the other side of that confrontation?
Great question. Okay, and before I say that, I just want you to know that, you know, one of our core values is we act like owners because we own it. And what you're hearing from these three is you can hear like their investment in their own principles of their business, right? You can hear that from Ryan. Like, he feels passionately about that recruiting model because it's his. Because it's his. And Ian's the same way with his onboarding, and Gino the same. I caught Gino last night and I couldn't get away from him as he was sharing this with me. There's like this passion because it's theirs. Everybody, do you get that, Prophet? Like, that's how this company actually continues to grow. Is it's not sitting around waiting for your upline to do X, Y, or Z. It's you being like, you can count on me to push this thing forward because I want to make it mine. Right? Like, it's not the it's not the Newsom agency Boston, it's the Penso agency. Does that make sense? Okay? And so kudos to you three because like, I can hear it and I know all of you, so I know that it's real as well in terms of how you feel about it because it's yours, right? Okay, so fierce conversations. So there's a lot there. Okay, I will tell you.
The first step is waiting for the teachable moment, and that's something that I've the other night when we spoke, I was like, oh man, that's genius. So you're setting that environment up, and once that is set up, how do you get into that conversation?
Okay. So I will tell you that for me, one of the things that I've communicated with Monica and Hannah and the leaders of my organization is like the first thing that I need from you is I need you to be comfortable failing in front of our team. You heard Edward talking, so like that's not me, that's just being cascaded down since I've been here. You heard Edward talking about it. You heard Drew getting wildly vulnerable, letting a crowd full of people know that he had to tell Chick-fil-A no. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? And so for the first principle, or the first thing I ask of my leaders is I'm gonna need you to be vulnerable in front of the group so that everybody knows that this is a safe place. Does that make sense? And so I hope you're catching that. And then you know, you gotta, your ability to communicate effectively and passionately with people in this business will only grow, as does your confidence, ability, and the way that you see yourself in this business. Okay, so I was unable to have critical, fierce conversations with people in the beginning because I could not expect them to believe me because I wasn't sure that I could believe me. Right? You want to get better at leading people, get better at this business, because then all of a sudden you'll have this level of conviction that you just heard from those three around their processes, right? And you get better, and then at some point you recognize that in leadership, titles here, like Ian getting to 130, titles are not they're not a reward for work that you've already done. They are a responsibility for the next chapter in your story. Does that make sense? And like, if you don't get that, then you don't get this. Okay? And that's what it is. It's just like as I've developed and as our agency has developed and as I've started to see myself better, all of a sudden it's like I have a little bit more confidence to tell people the truth. To tell people the truth and not forget this principle. Right? Not forget this principle. Hard now, easy later. Okay? And that matters with conversations. Hard now, easy later, or easy now, but it will be harder later. Okay, and those that are in the leadership space, you know that to be true. Okay, which means that just sometimes, Brian was really good about this with me. his language to me, when he wanted to like give it to me, I don't know how he did it with you guys, okay? But with me, he'd say, "You in a place we can talk?" And I was like,
Oh yeah, we all know that conversation.
then I would text Brian Williams, I'd be like, "Are you in a place we can talk?" Right? And so I think that that's a big thing. And then another thing that I would share with people that I think we get this wrong, I'll say two things.
Just underline that. I know we're wrapping up here, but to create a space in your agency where people can fail comfortably.
Yeah, that's it. And so I had two other things to say, and you are just totally erased.
I am so
No,
sorry.
I got it. So two things that as leaders that I want to communicate this to everybody because I've been seeing it a little bit in the hallway. It's like I want to tell you that if your people are winning, then you should talk and tell.
Yeah.
Like you should tell them when they're good.
Yeah.
And you should tell them when they're winning.
Yeah.
And that's the time to talk to them. And I want you to know that when they're losing, you should be asking.
Right.
You should be asking and you should be pointing. Okay? I think that that's such an important teaching point. And then the last thing I want to say is something that I listened to Edward and Brian have a conversation on this, I think, season 1 of Brian's podcast, Unlock Potential, which plug for my boy. If you're not into that, you're wrong. Okay? And so, and I text both of them afterwards. I was like, that was a great walk the three of us just had. I appreciate you guys sharing that, right? And one of the things that Edward talked about in that is he said, if you're not going to take, like leaders, I need you to hear me on this. If you are not going to take responsibility for their wins, then stop taking responsibility for their losses. Because it's theirs. Your responsibility is to go first, to make it look what? Easy. Okay? And then it's your job to counsel, coach, mentor, advise, model, whatever that is. And then it's their job to act. We do not, you had said something to me the other day on the phone, and it was just like, we don't develop people. We work with people that develop, right? Like Ayers and Cicely didn't do that for you. You did that work, okay? Just like you did, and so sometimes it's like, man, I heard you're really good at developing people. No, I get the environment right, I get out of the way, and they do the work. Does that make sense? Okay?
Let's get up for our building. Give it up.